This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just ripped your ass.
This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, guys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Michael Ritter. You can find me on Twitter at Michael5Ritter and on Instagram at MichaelRitter5, also the host of the Football Function Podcast, available on all of your podcasting platforms, including the one that you're listening to this show on right now. Speaking of that show, we're getting into playoff season. So if you are a football fan, I know that there might not be a huge, margin of the wrestling fans that like football. But if you are and you are interested in football and you want to hear some playoff analysis, go ahead and go check that out. We had a wild card weekend preview show drop just today. So definitely will like that if that is something you're interested in. But I will say, all right, now that we're past all that stuff, that's not why you guys are here. You guys are obviously here to talk about wrestling. You guys are here to talk about the SmackDown that aired on January 14th, 2022 from Omaha, Nebraska. This is the 66th edition of my SmackDown review, so we're going to do things a little bit different than what we have on every single episode previous to this. Now, as you guys know, I took the show over in late 2020 towards the end of, I guess you can say, like the summer season, kind of right into fall, right whenever they did the draft before this past draft, the draft where Roman Reigns officially was on SmackDown and SmackDown was officially a part of Fox, and they had the executives in the war room, and it was that, that crazy little scenario that they had. I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but anyways, that's when I started covering the show. All of 2021 as well. And now here into 2022, I just feel like it's time that we shake things up a little bit. And I feel like not only is putting a fresh coat of paint, maybe a new format, a new style of the SmackDown review is beneficial, but also, as Vince McMahon says, shake things up a bit and do things a little bit different and also rejuvenate me a little bit and kind of, get my juices flowing again here on the SmackDown review. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring somebody new on and have somebody co-host the show with me. Now, this is a new wrestling fan and he's on with me right now. He started watching in SummerSlam, I believe it was August here, the end of summer in 2021. So he's going to tell you all that stuff once I introduce him, but that's pretty much what I'm saying here. The new style that we're going to do here is basically an experienced wrestling fan and a brand new wrestling fan. So you're going to get that perspective live. You're going to see those conversations happen and you're going to see a lot of discussions happen where, not only is he getting more familiar with, things in the wrestling business, but also an overall new feel to this show. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce this guy, one of my good buddies, John Carrasco. John, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I appreciate you for having me on and everything like that. So just bear with me, kind of go through the motions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The whole podcast thing. So, definitely a first little ride, I guess you could say.
Yeah, man, I'm going to guide the ship for you. It's going to be pretty easy because, at first you think, it's some huge deal. You're on this platform. A lot of people are going to hear your voice, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, all it is you're talking wrestling. We just watched a 2-hour show, SmackDown. Pretty entertaining one, I will say. One of the better ones that I can remember. A lot of good stuff happened. You got introduced to Lita. I know you really didn't get a chance to see her in her heyday. There are some things that you probably need to go back and look up. For instance, go to YouTube, type in Lita and Edge on Monday Night Raw. I'm sure you will find a video at some point that, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyways. But there's some other things that she did as well. Like Michael Cole mentioned, 4-time women's champ. There's a lot of things about her that I feel like you would have liked had you watched, during her era. A lot of other things happened as well. Clearly, the main attraction of the show, the main event, was that face-to-face between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. So this was a pretty good episode of SmackDown. So it's going to be easy to talk about. And that's kind of what I was saying there is like, once you kind of sit down and you just realize what it is, it's just, kind of just sitting here having a conversation about a product that you like. That's really all it is. So don't worry. Not going to be any stress needed here. This is a comfortable environment here on the WWE podcast. As you know, as you've kind of been listening to over the past couple weeks. I mean, you know how I am, obviously. You know me off air, like actually in person. So I'm definitely glad that you're going to be joining me here. And I do appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come over here and help me do this. But anyways, are you ready to go ahead and dive into this episode of SmackDown and talk about what exactly happened here?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely like you were saying, man. There's like a lot of past stuff that I wasn't involved with at the time, not watching. So it's kind of cool that, having to go back into the history to kind of catch up with what's going on right now.
Oh
It's
yeah.
kind of a new thing because, of course, I thought it was like going as like a consistent storyline where I started, so now it's starting to bring in some past stuff instead of like actually going with the future and present.
Exactly, yeah, and you kind of saw a little bit of that with those video packages that they were showing today with, the Shield days and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, how they have history, and we'll definitely get into all of that, but you kind of mentioned it. I guess I kind of did jump the gun a little bit there. Before we get into the SmackDown review, why don't you go ahead and just talk about, what your introduction to wrestling was, like what made you become a fan, first off, and then who your favorite wrestler is now. Just basically what you like about the product now that you are a fan.
Oh, well, it started it wasn't like a consistent me watching, but what kind of drew me back into the WWE brand, I guess you could say, is The Fiend. He was just an intriguing character, came in just random times, I guess you could say, put a little claw on you. I don't know his exact move, I guess you could say, but
Mandible claw.
That was just something that kind of drew me back into it. So I started watching just bits and pieces and eventually just started following the storyline and everything like that, So like around, like you said, SummerSlam is where it started getting consistent. Favorite character at the moment? It's kind of tough. I'm on the Seth Rollins side. I know it's on the Raw side, but
yeah, no worries.
That's the character that I'm kind of seeing at the time that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best in the business, and he kind of mentions that. I'm excited to get into that promo. Seth Rollins is without a doubt one of the best wrestlers in not only WWE, but the entire wrestling industry as a whole. I mean, he's easily one of the guys that's going to attract new fans as well as The Fiend. I mean, when you see The Fiend, you don't even have to be a wrestling fan. You could be attracted to horror movies, stuff like that, and that type of stuff is going to catch your eye and maybe bring you to the product. And especially if you're like a Bray Wyatt fan who, before he was The Fiend, he had a pretty big fan base as well. So just bringing them along with all the new people, it was just a pretty fun little experience that that fans like you and other fans, who watched even before them all kind of got to experience in a different way. But I will say, we'll get into this SmackDown review really quickly here. And this one opens with the Usos. Now, I was kind of confused here because they do mention Roman Reigns, but we really don't see them with Roman Reigns too much anymore. They kind of show up whenever he needs them, like we saw a little bit later in the show. But in terms of backstage and all that stuff, there's no more Paul Heyman. There's no more Usos. Roman Reigns is basically running solo here. And I do kind of like that. I want to see how it looks on screen, how it kind of feels, I guess you can say, if it feels as natural as this newer version of Roman Reigns kind of feels, just the heel version. Just seems so natural, at least with the guidance of Paul Heyman and the assistance of the Usos. But I mean, like I said, it was just kind of weird. I kind of wanted to point that out here quickly before we got any further. It is weird seeing them kind of by themselves, but they talk about how the last week, whenever they beat the New Day, they proved that they are the best tag team in the WWE. And then they announced that there's going to be a fatal 4-way number one contenders match to determine who their next challengers are going to be for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Now, in this match, they announced it's going to be Los Lotharios, Mansoor and Cesaro, Jinder Mahal and Shanky, and then the Viking Raiders. And then it was a little bit of a weird sequence that happened before the match. Like the Usos were in the ring with the referee, and then they announced that the rules before the match are that there are going to be no rules, except that they need to remember that they are the ones, them being the Usos, they're referring to themselves, and then Jimmy hits Mansoor with a super kick and then runs out of the ring, but then immediately runs into commentary. I thought that was weird. Why did they just he just kicked you in the face and he goes and sits right there 15 feet away. You're just going to sit there and go on with your match. I understand you got to be professional. You don't want to blow the opportunity for your team. If you go over there, get interfered with, get disqualified, all that good stuff. So I guess you got to take the high road as a babyface, and that's what Mansoor does. But that's just kind of one thing that I pointed out there. Man, I thought maybe they were going to run away. The fact that I saw that they were, sitting there on commentary kind of just added a little bit of a twist to that whole dynamic. But like I said, they do bring out the 4 tag teams for this Fatal 4 match, and they have it. This match was really fast paced, high energy, especially with the Usos on commentary with Pat McAfee. I mean, you can imagine the energy that they were bringing just audio wise, not even to mention the action that was going on in the ring. And like I said, it was really fast paced. It ended when the Viking Raiders hit Garza with the Viking experience, and they earned themselves a #1 contenders match against the New Day. So, I mean, as far as this tag team division goes, I mean, people have their own opinions on it. Some people think it's too deep. Some people think it's not deep enough. And the reason why they think it's too deep is because they're not utilizing anybody. So, I mean, you're not going to have anybody just say, oh my gosh, there's too many tag teams in WWE. But in a sense, there are too many whenever not any of them are being used. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're kind of just reusing the same matchups over and over again. At least that's what I'm seeing on SmackDown. That's what they've kind of been doing. Now the Viking Raiders get an opportunity at the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Do you feel like they have a legitimate shot to take the titles off the Usos? I mean, the Usos have had these belts for a long time now.
I don't believe so. I mean, I kind of see like the momentum that they're building, everything like that, but I don't see them as a powerful tag team couple, or I guess you could say, going forward, if they were to beat them, like what else for them, Like, I just see them as as a good little powerhouse, I guess you could say, but nothing that you can keep consistent with, story wise.
Yeah, and even if they don't take the titles, I at least want to see a good push. Like, I want to see a good match. I want them to look strong.
Oh yeah.
Maybe push the Usos to their quote unquote limit, as the announcers like to say sometimes, or maybe get cheated out, like not lose clean, like have something happen, whether it be by hook or crook. The Usos kind of bring a steel chair in the ring while the referee's not looking, hit him in the head, maybe take the padding off the turnbuckle. He hits his head on the top turnbuckle. There's ways you can do that. Maybe put your foot on the rope. There's easily ways that you can make this like a sloppy finish, or like a crooked finish, and a cheating win for the Usos. So that's kind of what I would like to see, if anything, because I do want to see other tag teams get boosted up. If they just run through the Viking Raiders who won that fatal 4-way match, what's that say about the rest of the division? So you want some challengers, you want some worthy opponents for the Usos, but I do kind of agree. I don't think that right here, right now is the time. Closer to WrestleMania season, maybe even at the pay-per-view, I could maybe see the Usos dropping those tag team titles. But let's go ahead and move on here. We'll transition into something else that's a little bit more entertaining and more of a long-term story that we've been seeing here on SmackDown. Sonya Deville is approached by Naomi backstage, and she says that Naomi, that is, toying with her is one thing. Going out there, trying to do what you can to make her life miserable, that's one thing. But whenever you're starting to affect her career and interfere with other matches, that's whenever you kind of, you cross the line, and that's just a whole nother animal for her. And that's what she says Sonya did last week by constantly interfering in her match with Charlotte, going out there, changing the rules, definitely, as they like to say, moving the goalpost, to try to help Charlotte anytime that Naomi looked like she had a chance to get the win. And Sonya kind of plays the I'm your boss card and tells Naomi that, you can't touch her when I'm wearing this suit. And she threatens her with a fine and a suspension. I mean, are you enjoying this slow build, this really slow burn here? Or do you wish that, it's been a while now. They've been doing this, if I'm not mistaken, since November. This whole little slow build between Sonya Deville having some type of vendetta against Naomi and holding her back from all types of opportunities and just screwing her out of everything. Every single time she's like on camera, that somewhere Sonya Deville's coming soon. If Naomi's in the ring, something's about to happen with Sonya. If Naomi is backstage giving an interview or something like that, that Sonya's about to come out. I mean, it is kind of entertaining, but I'm curious what your perspective is on that whole dynamic. Like, do you feel like it should have already been blown off by now?
I'm not really a fan of it. I believe, like, in my opinion, that it should have been done whenever they had the actual match. Yeah. But then again, Sonya, of course, she pulled some strings for it to be an offset match, and it just wasn't something that I wanted to see carry on, I figured it would have been done a long time ago. But it kind of does give to where, like, where it's brought it now, like it's given Naomi also a disadvantage, but also an advantage to keep on moving with the momentum that she got, It's because it's like, of course, Sonya, she's the business. So she's just pulling or using the authority to kind of, like you said, mess with everything that she got going. But then again, look where it's gotten her.
Yeah.
So I can't really say that it's been a bad thing, but I can't really say that it's also been a good thing for her.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, definitely. And the reason why I kind of enjoy the slower process is because you don't really see this from WWE too often anymore. Like, more often than not, they like to blow things off too quickly. Like, Matt, the host of this show, he is he's famous for saying that, like, if you're a heel, like say Baron Corbin, for instance, if you get heat in the beginning of the night, and by heat we mean like if you piss the crowd off, if you get the better hand of the baby face, like say you cheat, you get a low blow or something like that and you get away with it and the crowd's like, man, we really want to see this guy get his ass kicked, you can build that heat. You can not have it happen that same night of Raw. You can let a week go by, build onto the storyline a little bit, let the fans want to see this dude get his ass kicked a little bit more, and then it kind of develops a little bit where WWE more often than not will have that happen that same show. Like they'll get you pissed off at a guy in the opening segment, especially on Raw, or at least back whenever I was watching Raw on a weekly basis. They would get you pissed off at somebody, they'd build some heat at the beginning of the show, and then towards the end, maybe even in that same segment, they would blow it off and have the dude get his ass kicked. So there's just different ways, there's different formulas to go about that. So I do appreciate them kind of prolonging this a little bit and making you want it. Like me, for instance, I want to see it. I want to see Sonya get her ass kicked. I really do. And I'm calling it now. I mean, obviously I don't think it's any, bold prediction or anything like that. But Sonya's going to cause Naomi to get eliminated from the Royal Rumble. Some way, somehow, it's going to happen. Watch. Naomi's going to look like she's going on a hot streak. Now, if it comes down to like the final four, like if it happens towards the very end of the Rumble, because then you're talking about she had a really big chance, or at least a really good chance to win the Rumble, and Sonya interferes late in the match, then, it's a little bit different, but I could see it being like a middle of the thing, maybe, or in fact, I already know what's going to happen. They're going to talk about whenever they're figuring out their numbers. They're going to figure out who's going in number 1, number 2, number 3, all that good stuff. Cause that's how you do it. You find out randomly what number you enter in the Royal Rumble. And the later your number, the better advantage. Obviously, if you have number 30, you have a damn good chance to win the whole thing. If you enter number 1, you got to go through 29 other people. So there is advantages to what number you pick. Naomi's going to come out number 1. I promise you. You could already book that. And if she does make a run, if she goes on some miraculous run where she, has a little bit of momentum late in the match, something's going to happen. But I promise you, Sonya is going to screw Naomi some way, somehow, in this Royal Rumble. But we can go ahead and transition a little bit since we're talking about people getting screwed. Somebody who's made a career, at least a run here lately out of being screwed, Sami Zayn. He comes to the ring and he says before he gets back to what's really important to him, which is obviously getting back that Intercontinental Championship, he needs to handle the Johnny Knoxville stuff first. And he announces that he's in the Royal Rumble in the process, Sami Zayn that is, so we're going to get him in the match. But I also noticed that there was like a ramp, like a dirt bike ramp, a skateboard ramp, sitting down there at the end of the actual ramp that the wrestlers walk down. So there was a ramp on top of the ramp. But anyways, Sammy plays his own version of Jackass, and he calls it Insane. Has his own little theme song that's kind of similar to the Jackass theme song. And he gets inside of a grocery basket with a couple of enhancement talent pushing him. And then Sammy says, I'm Sami Zayn, and I'm going to ramp the shopping cart into the ring. Like trying to, take a little page out of the Jackass guys, obviously. But he begins to have second thoughts, though. Obviously, he starts to kind of chicken out, and eventually does. And the crowd does not like that. They start to boo the hell out of him whenever he gets out of the grocery basket. He gets in the ring, tells them to shut their mouth. Rick Boogs shows up with a new look. I will say that kind of caught me off guard, seeing Rick Boogs with a haircut. That was pretty strange. But he distracts Sami Zayn for enough time for Shinsuke Nakamura to sneak up behind him, takes him out, and then Boogs throws Sami Zayn over the top rope onto a landing pad. So I will say really quickly here, I mean, I didn't even recognize Rick Boogs at first. I had no idea who the hell he was. I was like, wait a minute, did I miss an episode of SmackDown 2? Like, who the hell is this dude? Did he come out of nowhere? Like, and then I realized, oh my gosh, that's Rick Boogs. He just got a haircut. So that's going to be different. He didn't come out playing his electric guitar. So is that a thing of the past now? Cause I mean, keep in mind, he's come out to distract people for Shinsuke in the past, but he still has his guitar. That's usually part of it. He's usually playing it. And that's what initially gets them to be distracted. But I'll get your opinion on this if you have anything to say on the Sami Zayn stuff and anything like that. But I will say, cause you said you started watching in August. Well, coincidentally, Shinsuke Nakamura hasn't defended his Intercontinental Championship since August. So during the entire time that you've been a wrestling fan, you have not seen that Intercontinental Championship be defended, if I'm not mistaken, because Shinsuke Nakamura has been holding it hostage. And that's a problem for me because I'm a big fan of the Intercontinental Championship. That's one of the bigger championships in my opinion. It's one of the more prestigious, one of the more historic. A lot of stuff goes, behind all that. And there have been wrestlers who have done a good job holding it. Shinsuke Nakamura is a fine wrestler. He could do a good job with that champion. This is 100% a booking problem. This is a creative problem. Like, what the hell are you doing? They've left it off of several pay-per-views. They just, for whatever reason, they just don't care about this championship. They just don't book it right. I mean, you saw this. How long was Shinsuke Nakamura actually out there on air tonight? Probably 30 seconds. You can add up the past couple of months and he probably only got 10 minutes of airtime. So that's just, I mean, if you don't have anything for this champion or this championship, I should say, that's shame on you because you have the wrestlers for it. Your roster's pretty damn good. Otherwise, if it wasn't, why the hell are you releasing people every 2 weeks, So something's got to give, I don't really know what it is, but we have no reason to believe that they're going to do anything better with this Intercontinental Championship, although Sami Zayn is going to get his opportunity. So at the very least, I want to see Sami win just to see some change, just to get that title off Shinsuke. It has a bad scent to it. It's synonymous with him misbooking it. So I think he needs to get that championship off of his waist. What's your opinion on that? And I guess the whole Sami Zayn conspiracy theory jackass dynamic.
Well, I mean, I wasn't too into the Zayn episode, I guess you could say, It was just kind of weird. I mean, I don't know why he's even having a little feud with Johnny Knoxville. I mean, kind of puts him at a lower part of the ladder, in my opinion. But the Shinsuke thing, I kind of came in on him whenever he was, right before he took the crown from King Corbin.
Yeah.
So it was kind of around that time. So of course, you haven't seen anything go on with it. So it kind of makes it unnoticeable to me. I guess if it doesn't, it really even exists, Just coming in, like you said, Rick Boogs is always the one that's either fighting his match or, I don't know, protecting him, I guess you could say. So, I mean, like you said, I don't really see a plan for it as of right now. So being exchange of hands and stuff like that, I guess that would be kind of cool. But, like I said, it's just a imaginary thing as of right now for me.
Yeah, it's just a prop. That's all it is. It's just it's no different than Apollo Cruz's little scepter thing that he had when he was walking out there. That's pretty much all it is. It's something to make you look cool. And that's just crazy to me, but we'll go ahead and move on. Go ahead. What's up?
Oh, I kind of felt as if having the crown was a little bit more because they're moving on with that little storyline, with King Woods and everything now. So I felt if he would have held that onto that would have been a better spotlight for him.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I definitely agree with that. But let's go ahead and transition into something else. We get somebody makes their singles debut and it's Aaliyah. She has a match against Natalya. And before this match, they both have a little bit of an interaction with the backstage interviewer. I think it's Megan, I believe is her first name. Can't remember her last name. They kind of switch it up a little bit. Kayla Braxton is usually the SmackDown backstage interview person. That's usually who it's always been for the longest time that I've been covering the show at least. But anyways, they both have a little interaction with the interviewer, and Natalya brags about her 3 Guinness World Records that she has. And she says that tonight she's going to go for 4. And she's going to try to get the fastest win in WWE history, which is 3.8 seconds, held by Trish Stratus. So Natty, in this scenario, she's playing chess, not checkers. Why? Because before the match even starts, she goes and she attacks Aaliyah. She puts a little bit of a beating on her before the match to kind of get that advantage. So whenever the bell finally rings, she's already got, the upper hand. Aaliyah's already beat the what. She really can't even stand up. The referee asks her, hey, can you go on here? Can you do this match? He eventually decides that she's unable to compete, but Aaliyah convinces him that she's all right, and they start the match anyway. And guess what happens? Aaliyah is the one who immediately gets the roll up, and she breaks the record herself, 3.17 seconds. So Aaliyah gets in the record books here. I mean, it's one of the only times that there's a little bit of, I don't know what word to say behind it, I guess. Man, I wish I knew exactly what word is on the tip of my tongue, but I'll bring up something I do here on the show is I use football analogies. So for example, Michael Strahan up until this year had the single season sack record with 22.5 sacks. And whenever he got his record breaking sack, Brett Favre historically just fell down and gave it to him, kind of just said, no, you get the record. I'm going to give you this sack. And Strahan didn't like that. He wanted to earn it. He didn't want to be remembered like that. He didn't want his record-breaking sack to be viewed and remembered in highlight reels as Brett Favre falling down. So it's actually a historic thing where people say that, hey, you didn't earn that record. Brett Favre gave it to you. There's a lot of things like that where, basically that record has had a little bit of an asterisk next to it until now. TJ Watt kind of tied it, and even it still does because it's 17.5 because it's 17 games, but we're not even going to go into football. We're kind of getting a little bit too deep into that. But what I'm saying here is the record that Aaliyah set has a little bit of a forced narrative to it, because all of Natalia's records, they were built over time. Like like WWE didn't plan it. They didn't book Natalia to win all these pay-per-view matches, to win all these singles matches, and have this, really decorative career to say, all right, and all this is planned so she can have 3 Guinness World Records. Like, they didn't plan it. It just so happened to work out like that, so it's cool. Like, I'm a Natalia fan. I have a picture with her and everything. I have a 2-paws shirt. Like, I love Natalia. But it's just seeing that they forced it. I mean, whenever they came out, whenever she acknowledged it, she pointed it out to us, hey, I'm about to break a record, just so y'all know, so y'all be paying attention. This is going to be a really quick match here. I knew right then something was going to happen. And then whenever Aaliyah did it, so you kind of knew. I mean, shout out to Aaliyah. She gets the record. She wins her first singles debut match after getting cheap shotted before the thing goes. So, I mean, definitely onto a good start, I guess you could say. But either way, I thought this segment was entertaining, to say the least. I mean, it doesn't have to, be hit out of the park for me to have a good time watching it. I feel like that's one of them, where they kind of teased the record being broken, and it was kind of the other way, the one you really didn't expect, especially after she was attacked before the match. Whenever I saw her get attacked before the match, I thought Natty was definitely going to win. Oh, she's going to get that record, and that's going to be her new thing, if she's going to start her gimmick is going to be her just getting all of these pointless records and cheating to get them. But that wasn't the case. Aaliyah gets it. So what was your opinion on this whole little thing?
I mean, I kind of liked it. I mean, it was a good, like you said, singles debut for Aaliyah. So, for her to get that little, I guess you could say, give me record. I mean, I think it was kind of good for her, It's kind of a good little jump start for her or coming to SmackDown and everything like that. I kind of took it wrong whenever Natalya was holding that freaking book the whole time,
Yeah.
I was like, what is she doing? Just trying to boast and everything like that. So I kind of like my head was already kind of turning right there, as if why she was doing that the whole time. Cause she made it very presentable that you had to see that,
Yeah.
I kind of get that she was going for that 4th one, but I kind of thought, yeah, there's something about to happen here. So I was kind of already gone on the book of the upset, I guess you could say,
Yeah. And just her tone, her tone did it for me. You didn't even have to be watching. If you were looking down at your phone and you could just hear Natalya talking about her 3 world records, she sounded so serious. She sounded determined. I thought she sounded determined. I really thought she was going to do this. So shout out to Aaliyah. It's not her fault. She beat who's in front of her. She got the win here. A nice little exciting way, a different way to start a career. But where Aaliyah is at the very, very beginning of her career, the next lady we're going to talk about is at the very opposite end of her career. And it's Lita. Michael Cole welcomes Lita to SmackDown for the first time in 20 years. And this is pretty badass seeing Lita, I'm not going to lie. I was a huge fan in the Ruthless Aggression era. She obviously kind of debuted there at the end of the Attitude era, but still, I was there for Lita's heyday. I saw all 4 of her championship reigns. Hall of Famer, like Michael Cole mentioned. Just one of a kind. You really don't get any better than Lita, especially in the ring. And she's been one of the women who I've kind of argued with people about. People have kind of, came at me and talked about, how Charlotte, in their opinion, is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. It's not even close. They're just she might as well retire right now. Well, their argument for that is, her championship reigns. How she's had 14 or 13, however many she's had. She's had a lot of championship title reigns. And that's usually people's argument, is what is all of the, I guess you can say, just how decorative her career has been over the years. And yeah, she has way more championships than Lita, but if you get these 2 women in the ring, if you see, number one, Lita got in the WWE way different than Charlotte did. Lita's not Ric Flair's daughter. No offense to Charlotte. She's without a doubt one of the best in the entire industry right now. She holds her own. She's one of the best on the mic. And I'll say it right now, in terms of promo, Charlotte Flair is the best promo in terms of the women in all of WWE. What she says is real, doesn't feel scripted. It just, you never know what you're going to hear from her. She sometimes crosses that line. She takes those shots. She makes you she feels like she's an absolute, so that's one thing I appreciate about Charlotte. But seeing her in this segment with Lita, cause that's what happens. I kind of tip the hand a little bit, but Charlotte does eventually come out because Cole asks Lita why she's entering the Royal Rumble, and Lita says that she thinks she has one more run left in her. And she says that she has a plan, which is to enter the Royal Rumble, win it, and main event WrestleMania. And that's whenever Charlotte's music hits. And she comes out and she enters the conversation. In fact, she takes over the interview which Michael Cole was having, which this interview is basically just her trying to poke fun at the quote-unquote extreme tagline that Lita helped make famous over the years, which is basically just her gimmick with Team Extreme. And she tells Lita that she's going to eliminate her from the Royal Rumble herself. And then she asks Lita what she's going to do whenever Charlotte ends her short little comeback in like less than a month, however long it's going to be. And then Lita makes a little bit of a comeback, taking a shot at Charlotte's big head. I think that it was a figurative, shot, but I think maybe there's a little bit of a literal feel to that too. Like she was saying, hey, you got a big head. I mean, if someone's, poking fun at you, you're going to say what you want back. And yeah, she made it seem like she meant it figuratively, saying like, yeah, you have a big head, you're really egotistical. But, the way Charlotte's hair was, really that tight bun at the top, I could see Lita maybe taking a shot there, is all I'm saying. But anyways, Charlotte actually brings up Trish Stratus, and then she claims that Trish begged her for a match at SummerSlam 2019 whenever they went one-on-one. And then Charlotte says that that's actually the match that broke Trish Stratus and made her retire. And at the Royal Rumble, Charlotte says that she is going to do the exact same thing to Lita. And this is where I really liked it, because Lita pretended to slap Charlotte, and Charlotte just kind of cowered down and flinched. And then Lita hits her with the Twist of Fate, which Charlotte sold so terrible. Like, this was the worst sell job for Twist of Fate I've ever seen in my life. Like, you could tell, I don't know if it was just she didn't want to mess her hair up, if she didn't want to mess her makeup up. I mean, her head did not hit the mat at all. It was her hands. Just go back and watch this, because, I mean, you could tell there's a such thing as selling, and people are good at it and some people aren't. And I mean, she was in high heels. She was dressed to the nines. She clearly wasn't going to compete that night. So the fact that she took a bump in of itself is crazy. But I mean, if you're going to take a bump, take the damn bump. And it was just kind of weird that she didn't hit her head. It was just a bad job. That's one thing that I'll say. I mean, people call Charlotte the GOAT. I notice Charlotte do stuff like that all the time. And I'm not taking a shot at her. I'm just saying, I mean, just little things like that, like, just kind of rub me the wrong way. But what was your opinion on Lita? I mean, like I said, I know you didn't get a chance to see her in her heyday. They didn't show her like a video package really like they did for the Shield throughout the show. So you didn't get a little bit of an introduction for her. All you got to do is hear her badass theme song, all of the accolades that Michael Cole was listing off, and then see her have a little bit of a verbal altercation with Charlotte Flair. I mean, are you excited to maybe get familiar with Lita whenever the Royal Rumble comes?
Oh yeah, I mean, any woman that takes a shot at freaking Charlotte, go ahead. I give you a round of applause. For me, Charlotte's not just somebody that I want to see keep striving, but of course she's the big name, like you're saying. But anytime she gets slapped or anything like that, I mean, that's definitely a little laugh for me,
Oh yeah.
And like you're saying, not really too familiar with Lita. I mean, she seems like she can bring some excitement to the table, but other than that, I don't know her. I mean, I could say like the Twist of Fate, that was a cool thing to see,
Yeah, Jeff Hardy does that, that's who she came up with, was the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, so seeing that little relevance or...
Yeah, her entrance. Did you see her little entrance when she was doing that? It's reminiscent to Jeff Hardy. I mean, I mean, I'm telling you right now, you got to go watch some Lita, but seriously, you got to watch Lita and Edge. Type it in on Monday Night Raw. You got to type it in. I promise you will not regret it. But anyways, we can go ahead and move on here throughout the show, and we'll move on to this Sheamus versus Ricochet match. And one thing I noticed here, because we've seen these two go at it before. We've seen them go at it on Monday Night Raw. And I've seen Ricochet go at it with a lot of people like Sheamus. And one thing I noticed is Ricochet just matches up well with big guys for whatever reason. Like, for as small as he is, he's the type of wrestler that can really match up with those big guys and make it seem believable, because, like, he'll sell their moves really well. Like, that's one person who, you want to talk about selling? Ricochet is the best in the entire WWE at that. Like, he makes these shots look real. He can put over anybody, because that's the thing, like, who you're wrestling with, your quote-unquote dancing partner, has a lot to do with making you look good. Like, The Undertaker was famous for this, for, like, going in a match, because The Undertaker was this, well-known, dominant, huge figure. Anytime you, like, would get some offense in on The Undertaker, the crowd would be like, oh my gosh, like, is this dude the real deal? Like, he's beating The Undertaker right now. So The Undertaker had a history of, like, making sure to get your finishing move in those matches with him, making sure to, like, give you spots where you look really good. I mean, that's just what you call, like, paying it back. You're returning the favor to the business. Someone likely did that to you earlier in your career, and that's just your job to pay it forward, the next generation. So The Undertaker's somebody who does that a lot. And and Ricochet, he's somebody who, if he gets in a match, he can make you look like $1 million. Like literally, if he got in the ring with me and he's, and I just tried to clothesline him, he could literally do like a backflip and a half and make it seem like I actually took his head off. Like that's just the type of guy he is. So the fact that he goes against Sheamus, he makes all of his moves set look absolutely painful and brutal. But he does his best in this match. Has a couple of near falls, but it's not enough because he does run into a brogue kick after trying to bounce off the rope, something that he always does. This one was kind of cool because he bounces right off the rope into a brogue kick. Sheamus pins him and gets a little bit of redemption for his protege, Ridge Holland, who is on the shelf with that broken nose. I'm sure you saw the replay of him taking the heel to the nose. And that's the thing about wrestling that people don't realize. Yeah, I mean, people know that the injuries and stuff aren't quote unquote real, but there are accidents that happen. Like if you go out there and you try to powerbomb somebody, you're likely going to break someone's neck. You can't just go out and do stuff like that. So there are ways to do it. Clearly that was an accident there. You always got to be careful, but that's just an ugly injury there. I've actually seen Sheamus get his nose broken. I actually need to show you that video of Cesaro though, of him getting his teeth knocked inside of his gums. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm going to show you that one tonight actually whenever we're finished recording. But anyways, what are your thoughts on this one? You got anything to add about this Sheamus and Ricochet match?
Not too much. I mean, just going with emotions on this one, I guess you could say. Didn't really, or the Ridge Holland, not too much of a fan of him, I'd rather see Sheamus come out by himself, but I kind of get like the pairing on, the similarity between the two, I guess you could say. But, yeah, like you say, Ricochet, he's definitely like a good actor, I guess you could say, yeah, because everything like he does, even like all the high flying over ropes and everything like that, it's crazy like how in tune he is with his body and stuff like that. So I mean, it was definitely a good match to watch. I mean, not like a good story behind it, but a good overall match.
Yeah, there really wasn't a story other than the Ridge Holland stuff. That's pretty much all it was. Sheamus even cut that promo before the match saying that he looks weird being by himself because somebody isn't there beside him, his right-hand man. So that's really all this was. So anyways, we can go ahead and move on here to another segment, and it's a backstage segment. And Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, they keep referencing the temperature, like they keep referencing the heat, and they go to the thermostat and they're like, oh, it's getting hot in here. And Adam Pearce eventually takes off his jacket, but they never follow up on it. They never tell you why. Like there was nothing. I mean, did I miss something on that?
Oh no, it was just a straightforward type of thing. I was falling in line with somehow getting that jacket off her, I guess you could say,
Yeah. Oh, okay. I get it now. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Naomi is the one who was adjusting the heat just so Sonya.
Yeah.
See, and that's why I need you here, because I would have sounded like a Jagoff over here, freaking trying to say that.
I didn't really see it had to happen,
No, but it makes sense. That's connecting the dots right there. I was sitting here thinking they didn't connect the loose ends. They just kind of left it untied. Why the hell are you mentioning the thermostat and all that stuff? But yeah, it's clear because once Sonya Deville took off her jacket, Naomi walks up and she says, you got that jacket off. And that's where we'll go right here because that's what happens next. Naomi appears and she tries to corner Sonya Deville and she doubles down and, demands some answers for getting screwed last week by Sonya. And Adam Pearce agrees, says that wasn't right. And he says, quote unquote, that they're going to run it back. And they're going to give Charlotte and Naomi that one-on-one match next week on SmackDown in, I forgot exactly where it was. Nashville, Tennessee. I think it was. They announced where it was. I think that's where it is. But anyways. Yeah, so we're going to get a one-on-one match next week, Charlotte versus Naomi. And like I said, some way, somehow, Sonya's going to make an appearance. She's going to make her presence felt. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe she decides to be the special guest referee or something, because that's something that they've tried in the past. But anyways, we will go ahead and transition over to Kofi Kingston. He gathers all of the WWE, I guess, universe is what he's doing, because he's in the middle of the ring and he has a proclamation of the king. And it's basically just Xavier Woods saying that he suffered a calf injury and he's going to have to miss the Royal Rumble. But Kofi Kingston in this segment, he declares for the Royal Rumble. So prepare for a vintage Kofi Kingston Royal Rumble moment where he doesn't let his feet hit the ground. Have you seen any of those in the past?
I did see that. It was kind of crazy seeing him freaking, I guess, hand crawl all the way back over to the steps and everything like that. It's kind of like I see Naomi doing this in the future, in this upcoming one for some reason.
She actually has.
Yeah,
She's
so
done it
I
in the
see her
past.
probably
Yeah.
doing that, you know. Yeah, so I mean that's something I'm kind of looking forward to, especially like whenever I ended up seeing the video of Kofi doing it. I was like, there's something, or for me, there's something tying in with Naomi on this part of the, you know, just because it happened to pop up in the WWE feed and everything like that, and I was like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
So I mean that's just something I was just like, you know, kind of trying to put together and everything like that. Just me.
Yeah, so it's a good moment, you know, whenever Kofi Kingston declares for the Royal Rumble, gives himself an opportunity to win it, maybe main event WrestleMania, all that good stuff. Well, all the good stuff happens, or I guess it comes to an end right here whenever the happy folks come out and they start to antagonize Kofi Kingston, poke fun at him, and, you know, tell their jokes, this and that, and eventually ends up getting a one-on-one match between Madcap Moss and Kofi Kingston. Not a very long match. Baron Corbin is in the corner and at ringside for Madcap, so obviously the advantage is for Kofi. And Madcap ends up winning with the punchline, his second week in a row, to use that move to win a match. So, I mean, I really don't have anything on this one. I mean, it's kind of just a little bit of a filler. Kofi Kingston wanted to declare for the Royal Rumble. They wanted to get that out there while also letting us know that Xavier Woods is injured. However, they wanted to get Madcap and Baron Corbin a little bit of airtime. So what do? They bring those guys out. Also a little bit of a good time, a little coincidence to show the video package of them injuring Drew McIntyre to remind you Drew McIntyre's on the shelf, but don't worry. Like I said, Royal Rumble season is back. That's the time of year where comebacks happen. That's whenever, if you got injured during the summer, like Bayley, for example, she is, you know, candidate number 1 to make their comeback at the Royal Rumble. Keep in mind that they're going to announce a lot of these entrants into the Women's Royal Rumble match. They've already announced a lot of them. I'm kind of disappointed that they already announced some of them, like some of the surprises of some of the returns, for instance, like the Bella Twins. That's one that I really wish they would have, you know, saved for a surprise. That would have been pretty cool there. But I do think that maybe Bayley and some other people who have been dealing with injuries might be making their return around Royal Rumble season. That's just kind of like clockwork. That's how the calendar ends up working. But anyways, let's see where we are here in the show. Like I said, yeah, Madcap ends up winning with the punchline. That's pretty much it. Like I said, I don't really have anything to add on this one. Do you got anything to say on this one before we move on to the main event?
I really didn't have much for this one. I mean, of course, you know, like you said, it's just come out, kind of get into it with what Kofi, and then what kind of like popped out to me was whenever he like Kofi hit the mat and started doing like a little seizure type laugh.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny to me. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I am kind of like falling onto this Madcap train. I am starting to like what they're doing with them and everything.
Yeah.
Like that, being more involved rather than Corbin. So, I mean, I'm definitely on that train. So, I kind of see good things happening for him. Other than that, kind of the touch on the Bayley thing, I did see that she is on the recovery to be back in March. So,
in March.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of, you know, craps all over my Royal Rumble prediction, but still WrestleMania season.
Yeah.
She could do some out of ring stuff. She could come back, you know, around, you know, post Rumble, cheat somebody out. You know, who is somebody she wants to attack? You know, she doesn't have to get in the ring, but she could just be, you know, doing some Sonia Deville stuff. She isn't medically cleared, so you can't put your hands on her, but she could be doing that type of stuff, you know, setting herself up for a rivalry. So there are ways to get her eased back into it. I'm not sure if they want her first match to be at Mania. I'm sure she might love that, but either way, Bayley's on her way back, and I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, I kind of like the feud that was going on between her and I believe it was Bianca Belair at the time. That was what kind of kept me onto like the backstory of her, you know. And then of course, like whenever she got hurt in July, that kind of like threw me off too. So I was like, gosh.
Yeah, that was Bianca Belair's like first actual program as the champion. You know, she had that program with Becky Lynch whenever she was the challenger. She finally climbed the mountain, all that good stuff. And now that, you know, well, after she already won the championship, I guess is what I'm trying to say, Bayley was that, you know, her first dancing partner. So Bianca Belair, Bayley, that's a good historic matchup there on SmackDown. I really enjoyed getting the chance to cover that. But I would love to see that again. I mean, I don't know what show Bayley's going to come back to, if she's going to go to Raw, whatever. I mean, I'm sure we could definitely use her over here on SmackDown, but either way, I'm excited to see Bayley back. She's definitely been missed. She's kind of like the female version of Seth Rollins. Like they both have that laugh. They both are kind of just that annoying presence, that arrogant presence, but they could back it up in the ring. So you really can't say a whole lot about it because, I mean, it's just who they are. However, I will say you missed the babyface version of Bayley. The wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man and her entrance and all that good stuff where she was the hugging section and all that stuff. You need to go back and check that out and just compare it, and you will definitely, I mean, she was good then too. I mean, that's what got her to the main roster, but there's a reason why she had to have a character switch, and it was one of those things that lasted way too long, and the crowd was definitely starting to sour on her, but excited to see her back. Let's go ahead and move on here to the main event. And this was actually pretty juicy. They hyped it up throughout the show. They showed, the glory days of the Shield whenever they were running rampant on the entire WWE roster. They showed the inevitable turn, the eventual turn of Seth Rollins whenever he cheap shotted Roman Reigns. And just a little bit of a side note here. I don't know if you know this or not. I've told the listeners, but I don't know if I've told you, and maybe new listeners haven't heard this yet, but whenever I stopped watching wrestling in like 2000, I want to say like 8 or 9, whenever the PG era really started is when I got out of it, and all the wrestlers I was familiar with, I noticed they were kind of starting to transition, move out of wrestling. I stopped watching for a while until I was kind of just, on a Monday evening, just kind of surfing through the channels, and Monday Night Raw's on. So I'm like, hey, I haven't seen wrestling in a really long time. Nothing else is on. I wouldn't mind seeing what's going on and just peeking in. So that's what I do. I click on it. And the segment that's on is that segment where Seth Rollins turns on Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. I didn't know who any of these characters were. I just saw, I watch wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan. It's in my blood. I literally could tell a good storyline whenever I see one. So I just saw it in all their faces. I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And saw him end up turning on him, and it just reminded me of a little bit, and it kind of sparked it. It sparked that interest. It didn't get lit. The fire didn't get lit that night. I slowly kind of peeked in here and there throughout the next coming months. Every now and then I didn't tune in, catch every episode of Raw, but I would peek in here and there. And I eventually came back and the fire was lit on the Royal Rumble that Roman Reigns won, eventually getting to WrestleMania 31, and that's kind of what did it. And that's another video package that they highlight is WrestleMania 31, where I was kind of telling you about earlier, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins makes his appearance in that. That's one of the matches for sure. You're going to have a long list of things that I tell you that you're going to have to go back and watch. That's definitely one of them, though, and you'll be glad you did, because, as soon as the bell rings, it doesn't look like a wrestling match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. It's their first actual match. They don't have the chemistry together. There's some stiff shots that get landed in that match, I will say. But anyways, what I was trying to say there was the video package where Seth Rollins turned on Roman Reigns. That's kind of where I got in that little bit of a wormhole. They showed that one. And then, like we said, WrestleMania 31. So they showed the video package. They hyped up this face-to-face to really get you excited for it. And I was. I haven't seen Seth Rollins in a while now. Since the day one pay-per-view, I got a little bit of Seth Rollins action. But other than that, I've been watching Raw. So I haven't really been able to see Seth. And I definitely miss seeing him. He's an entertaining dude. He's somebody that's believable when you talk about an opponent for Roman Reigns, because he is just as good, if not better, than Roman Reigns. And they get in the ring together. They do have that little bit of a face-to-face. Seth tried to get him to acknowledge the Shield, by putting his fist out there, trying to get him to do it. Roman Reigns says that that's beneath him now. And then Seth says, come on, Roman. He kind of just starts to joke around with him a little bit, brings up his facial expression whenever Roman Reigns saw Seth Rollins walk in the room last week and found out that he was going to be his next challenger. And Seth says that he understands why Roman wouldn't want to see him as his next number one contender. And he understands why he doesn't want to face Seth Rollins, and it's because their history, and it's very one-sided. Seth Rollins has gotten the better of Roman Reigns time after time. I don't expect that to be the case now. We'll see if that does happen, though. To me, I feel like this is a little bit more of a coin flip than what Roman Reigns' past opponents have been. But as far as verbal back and forth, Seth Rollins is really on another level. I know Roman Reigns has really done well over the past couple of years, mainly this past year, but really Seth Rollins, he's the full package. He's cut from the same cloth as Edge when you talk about just a total character, where from in-ring work to promo work to facial expressions, everything about his character, he really does become his character and everything about it. But anyways, because he brings up their rivalry, how one-sided it is, Roman Reigns kind of laughs at the fact that Seth Rollins is just bringing up the past, and even claims that Roman Reigns that is in God mode now. So anything that he's done in the past is irrelevant, because Roman Reigns is on a whole nother level now, one that he and Seth Rollins and nobody even imagined that he would go to. So what's it matter if you beat him 3 years ago? That Roman Reigns is dead now. This is a new Roman Reigns. So there's a very good chance that Seth Rollins just has not seen this version of Roman Reigns, the one that he's actually going to, be seeing at the Royal Rumble. Roman goes on to say that he's the greatest Universal Champion of all time. Still no lies detected there either. He really is the greatest Universal Champion. But Seth Rollins kind of turns it up a little bit here. And he starts to hit Roman Reigns where it hurts. He brings up his football career, says that Roman Reigns has really always needed help. Roman Reigns has never done anything by himself. Back in the days whenever he was riding the bench in those CFL days, Seth Rollins was climbing up the ladder by himself, without anybody's help, building a name for himself and establishing himself in the wrestling industry. And Roman Reigns needed help. He needed his famous last name and all that stuff to get in the door. And once he did get in the door, he needed Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins' help in the Shield and all that stuff. He's basically saying that he had to hold Roman Reigns' hand throughout the entire process until he eventually went on his own. And it was a little bit suspect for, the 4 or 5 year run when he was by himself. Gets with with Paul Heyman and magically gets shot right back up to the top again. So that's basically what Seth Rollins was saying. And he was saying, so no, it doesn't surprise me that you need me right now to make you relevant again here in this Royal Rumble match for your Universal Championship. And this is where Roman saves it, I will say, because Seth Rollins was winning. I feel like in this moment he was kind of running circles around Roman, but Roman does kind of save it and get the edge back a little bit whenever he says that he didn't even want to call Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins wasn't even his choice. Like, if he was going to have a mega star matchup with somebody, Seth Rollins wouldn't even be his first choice in his own household. He says that he would have much rather called Becky Lynch to have that matchup. And that's where, Seth Rollins you could tell he kind of gets under his skin a little bit. He starts to get closer to Roman Reigns, and then the Usos sneak up from behind him. Seth Rollins ducks, narrowly escapes the Usos. He does leave untouched and kind of turns this thing up a little bit, and things get interesting now. So between these two dudes, the gloves are kind of coming off. They're getting kind of personal here. He's talking about his wife. He's talking about his failed football career. They're starting to actually go at each other. These two dudes really used to be like best friends that traveled together. So they know each other. Seth Rollins knows that Roman Reigns was getting booed out of buildings for years on end. Like, it was crazy whenever Roman Reigns was that babyface role. So there's a lot of stuff Seth Rollins could say here. The promos, the back and forth, that's really what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, the matchup when these two guys meet at the Royal Rumble, looking forward to that for sure. But the verbal exchanges, that's what I'm really looking forward to with these guys. And we kind of saw a little bit of that tonight.
Yeah, on this, I was really intrigued by everything that was happening, especially last week whenever Seth Rollins walked into the locker room at the end of the show.
Yeah, I didn't expect it.
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay, kind of rubbed my hands together, like I had said earlier in the show that, Seth is the person that I kind of liked or, followed, I guess you could say more. So it's kind of cool to see him making his way back into the good, championship level, I guess you could say.
Main event picture, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, like I said, been kind of on the Raw side, following him a lot. So, it's kind of cool, like I said, seeing him over here. And there was a couple things that pointed out to me, I didn't know that freaking Becky Lynch was his wife, You
didn't know that?
I did not know that. So, whenever Roman had mentioned that, he was like, I'd rather fight your wife. I was like, well, who the heck's his wife, So I looked it up, and I was freaking mind blown.
Oh, my God. I had no idea.
Yes. Yeah, man, so make fun of me a little bit, laugh here and there, but that was little news to me. I was like, gosh, dang.
Well, dude, I'm just gonna tell you right now, all right? If something that obvious, if something that that's out in the open is unknown to you, dude, there are so many stones that we're gonna overturn here. There's gonna be so many things that you're gonna learn that you're probably. You know about Carmella and Corey Graves, right?
No.
Well, them two are an item. They're engaged as well. There's a lot of other relationships throughout the WWE. It looks like I'm gonna have to catch you up a little bit on some of the tea that's going on there in the WWE world.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good year in 22, So or 2022.
Yeah.
So I believe following throughout the story and everything like that. It's definitely gonna catch me up on a lot of stuff. Cause there is I had told you personally, I want to go back into watching everything from all the way back then to present day.
Yeah, Attitude Era. That's when you start. Honestly, between us, if you were to start the Ruthless Aggression Era, it'd be pretty badass too. You'd have a pretty good experience. But hey, yeah, you don't want to miss the Attitude Era. That's the the proclaimed best era in wrestling. But I can tell you right now, I was a WCW guy in the late 90s. I didn't really get a chance to watch all of that Attitude Era stuff. I'm objective whenever I say it's obviously the best era of all time in terms of universally loved. But me, I'm a Ruthless Aggression era guy. 2002, 2007. That's the window right there, man, in terms of like my fandom that I really fell in love with wrestling. But man, I really want to thank you for coming on here with me tonight, covering this SmackDown with me. It was fun having a chance to have another voice on here, a new voice, a new fan. You know, that these conversations, these discussions are going to be fun as we continue to learn what you don't know and, try to, fill you in a little bit, let you have, a new lens that you can look through. As you're watching wrestling, you kind of pay attention to other things and just kind of have a new experience. But I mean, is there anything you want to say? Any shout outs you want to give? Anything you want to plug before we sign off here?
Well, definitely want to give a shout out to you, man. I mean, definitely this is opening a new door for me, I guess you could say, spreading my wings to something that's uncomfortable to me, I guess you could say, in a way. I mean, because we could talk about this all day normally, I guess you could say. So now I just got to make it transition into a viewer's thing,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I definitely appreciate you, man. Good work on everything that you're doing. Podcast here, SmackDown review, the football function. If you're into football, you like analytics, this guy will keep you updated, man. So definitely follow this guy. And yeah, I mean, like I said, just another thank you to you for having me on.
Oh yeah, dude, I appreciate you joining me. Like I said, this is fun. I know it's different, your first show. The next time you do it, you'll be a lot more comfortable. It'll be a lot different. You'll know what to expect, all that good stuff. So it only gets better from here, bud. But I do appreciate you joining me. As far as the listeners go, I do want to thank you guys all for listening. If you're a regular listener, thank you so much for continuing to listen to this show. If you're a new listener, thank you so much for finding this episode and listening to it. Hopefully you will continue to do that in weeks to come. John is going to continue to come back and be a regular voice here on the show. We want to kind of get his opinions. This is fun. I like this format here. I think it's going to be a nice little addition to the SmackDown review. So on that note, I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.